Hello there, and welcome everyone to yet another of our monthly public TA videos on the Crypto Garden channel. Now, back in the Crypto Garden, we usually call these events the daily or weekly harvests, okay? And well, this is an event where we share what we are doing. Now, I have personally started to accumulate Bitcoin even more than I was in the past because I think we are reaching a zone of major accumulation, and I've made my point in the past. So let's get right into the chart. Okay, so this was my prediction for last week for Bitcoin, and as you guys can see, it was flat out wrong. Okay, so one of the things I pride myself on is that I am completely transparent. Okay, completely transparent with the predictions that I made in the past, and I don't try to hide anything. So this is basically what I thought Bitcoin would do. I thought it would go a little bit higher, maybe test around the zone of the 200-day whole moving average and come back down because I didn't think there was enough upward pressure to keep this movement up. But it did basically, right around the opposite. Okay, so it trended down, and now it seems like it is having some trouble going even lower. All right, so yeah, this was my prediction for last week. Now let's do a new prediction. All right, so if we look at the technical indicators first, the 55-day whole moving average is now below the price. Now this usually means that we'll have at least a little bit of a relief. Okay, so this is what has happened in the past. We usually have at least a little bit of a relief when we cross over it and test it as support, as we did back here in this candle that is closing in about 1 hour from when I'm recording this video. The RSI is trending below the moving average here, and the price at which the RSI would meet the moving average is at around 20k 850. All right, the OBV has formed a bunch of new lows and has currently been forming a little bit of a hidden divergence. So we have a lower low on the indicator here and a higher low in price. So that might be a little bit of an early bullish sign, not long term, of course. And finally, if we look at the volume profile, we are developing a very high volume range around the zone of the 20k 850. Okay, so if you guys can see here, we have quite a bit of a Gaussian bell curve here around that price. Okay, so here's what I'm thinking. Most of these indicators, they point to a little bit of an oversold condition, and the trouble that price is having to go below this level confirms that even further. Okay, so this is where technicals are pointing to at least a little bit of relief rally or just hanging sideways. All right, if we go to the long short ratio though, the chart is telling a little bit of a different story. Okay, so we have a long short ratio that is just climbing up. So we had a long short ratio below 1. At some point it was 0.84, and right now it's at 1.68. So basically the double what it once was, and we haven't liquidated that many longs in quite a while. Okay, if we go to the liquidations map, it's the same story of the sentiment chart here. So what we can see is the majority of the liquidity to the downside, right? So we have a bunch of liquidity, from the 13k area all the way down to current price. And meanwhile, liquidity above the current price is really, really reduced. Okay, so we only start having liquidity above the current price at around 21k. Okay, so this points to me that although there seems to be, not too much downward pressure right now, there's not much upward pressure either. All right, and what I think we would do is possibly, just hang around sideways. Maybe the top of the range is around that 21k mark, and the bottom of the range might be around the 17k zone. Okay, so this is what I think we'll do for the next week. Even if we do, a little bit of a Wyckoff distribution pattern, what we saw back here would be the selling climax. Then we have this automatic rally all the way up to 21k something, and now we should be heading to the secondary test, which further confirms the validity of the accumulation pattern. All right, and as we are in weak market conditions, I would say that that test would only occur, near the previous bottom, okay? It shouldn't occur, all the way up here. It should occur at least a little bit closer to that 17K something bottom, okay? So this is what I think we'll do with Bitcoin. Now, let's look at the altcoins that I looked at last week, shall we? So I looked at Phantom first, and well, Phantom I thought was gonna go a little bit lower. All right, let me hide this indicator just so the chart is a little bit undisturbed, and it didn't. Okay, it found support where I thought it would find support around this 24-cent zone, but eventually I thought it would go lower and it didn't. Okay, so I think I deserve at least a small trophy here, but not too big, just a tiny trophy. Next, I looked at Near. So let's look at Near. And with Near, I think I deserve a pretty big trophy, okay? I thought it was going to go down, and so it did. So let me give myself a little trophy here. Next, let's look at ADA, which was another one that I looked at last week. And with ADA also, I basically nailed it, okay? So another trophy for me on ADA. And finally, we looked at Uni. So let me find Uni here. Here it is. And I thought Uni would continue its rally for a little bit and then turn back down, but it didn't. So I don't think I deserved any trophies with Uni. All right, so the altcoins that I wanted to look at today were first 1inch. So here is 1inch, because 1inch had a little bit of a small rally here as Bitcoin recovered and is now dumping quite a bit more than Bitcoin. So it's going down 2% today, and Bitcoin is going down 0.15%. So 1inch is trending down against Bitcoin, although there are some altcoins that are trending up against Bitcoin, for example, Bluezell here, or Curve, or even Cake. All right, so 1inch. From technicals, we can see it is, in a little bit of a more, clear consolidation space. So it is above the 55-day whole moving average, and it has flipped up. All right. But it is being squeezed between these two moving averages. So between the 200-day here and the 55-day here. So it is being squeezed. And I think it will ultimately, just go sideways past this squeeze. I don't think we'll see any big breakouts, right? I think it will mostly follow Bitcoin. We can even look at the sentiment chart for it just to confirm. So 1inch USDT perp on Binance here on coinalize.net, where you can check all of these charts for free. And it had a pretty big, dip in the long short ratio, but it's now climbing back up. So to a mostly neutral level historically. So as you can see, 1inch, it had quite a large long short ratio. So we had basically 16-1, which is crazy. But right now it is at around 3-1, and altcoins usually have higher long short ratios. So I would say that is mostly a neutral long short ratio, especially if you consider 1inch's history. All right. So I think 1inch will mostly follow Bitcoin. Maybe we see it recover a little bit, as I think Bitcoin might hit that 20K800 level, but eventually it will come back down and possibly a little bit lower. Okay, so this is what I think for 1inch. Next, I wanted to look at ZIL, because ZIL is also not performing quite well today. Okay, and yeah, ZIL also is looking a little bit similar to 1inch, where we can see it trending way above the 55-day whole moving average, and the 55-day whole moving average has been trending up. However, we do see it being kind of squeezed between this upper band zone here and the 55-day whole moving average. Now, again, the same as 1inch, I think it will probably just continue sideways. We can even look at the futures chart for it, just to look at the long short ratio, see how it's looking. And yeah, basically the same as 1inch. So I think ZIL will also mostly go sideways. Maybe we see a little bit of a fake out recovery, but eventually coming back down and returning to this mean here. Next, I wanted to look at FTM, because FTM, contrary to others, has been performing quite well, at least today. Okay, so it has dumped a little bit less than Bitcoin today, and it has, trended up at least a little bit. Now, The whole moving average, because it's so reactive and I'm on the log scale, it can be a little bit buggy. So let me turn off the log scale here. And as you can see, it has been trending up above both the 200-day and the 55-day whole moving average. So we can see that it has reached the point where there's mostly no seller interest. Okay, this is the levels that it was back in 2021, and it has already corrected by, I don't know, 92%. Okay, so if you bought FTM at any point, around here, you're probably in some big losses. All right, some big losses. And so probably there isn't too much selling pressure on FTM right now because, nothing can go down forever. All right, so even though I don't think this is a particularly good time to start buying altcoins, I'm a huge defender of just buying Bitcoin in the context of bear markets, and I've made my point in the past. Okay, we even see a little bit of a OBV test here as resistance, which is not a great sign. All right, I do think FTM has a little bit of less downward pressure than other coins. So I think it might recover a little bit more than Bitcoin. So it might go up a little bit more than Bitcoin, maybe test these highs here. And then next week, I think it will be just a tiny bit higher than it closes this week. And the last coin that I wanted to look at was Sushi. So let's look at Sushi here because it has also had a great day and it is looking a little bit similar to Bitcoin in this aspect. All right, so Sushi, also the 55 whole moving average is, almost trending up. It is almost above it, and the 200-day is below the current price. So, it is also in a bit of a decision moment. And for Sushi, we can also look at the long short ratio here, just to confirm what I think, which is that, as you can see here, it has had a little bit of a dip in the long short ratio. Now we have to see if that maintains itself, if it can reach even lower levels. But, Sushi has come down, I don't know, from $23 all the way to $1. So again, if you are invested into it, you're probably in a big loss unless you bought, from this period here from, what time was it? Like October 2020 to in November 2020. So you had basically 1 month of buying Sushi and being in profit right now, which is, not a huge space of time. So, well, I think Sushi doesn't have that much downward pressure, okay? I don't think Sushi is going to hit, like 1 cent unless something goes terribly wrong with their protocol. But, that risk excluded, I think we might see, it just trend up a little bit, maybe escape this dispersion zone here briefly, but then return back down, maybe just a tiny bit above what it currently is. Okay, so also some other things that I like to check are here, if you can look at it, the age specific realized price. We can look at the long-term holder realized price on Chain Exposed, which is a website that provides on-chain indicators for free. Okay, and here we can see that price is hanging around this long-term holder realized price, which is historically a good level for starting to accumulate. Okay, now it doesn't mean that this is the bottom. As we can see, it goes quite a lot below the realized price. So here, for example, the realized price was $4,000 and we reached as low as $3,100. All right, but it does represent quite a meaningful point to start accumulating. Okay, if you look at it in the past, this was probably the best time to accumulate in, and this was probably the best time to accumulate in as well. All right, so this is an indicator that I think you guys should at least, give a look. All right, and the short-term holder realized price also represents a level of major resistance right now. So in bull markets, it is a level of intermediate support, and in bear markets, as you can see, especially back here, it is a level of major resistance. Okay, so we can see here it is at currently 30K. So I don't see us going past 30K. I don't know, maybe even in some months. All right. And yeah, I think that's enough for a single video. You're probably tired of my voice, and goodbye.